All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second episode of a new podcast started by myself and Steve.
We don't have a name yet.
By the time this comes out, we might have a name.
We might have a name by then.
But 2 weeks in, we still don't have a name. It's important. A name is important.
And we've gone through a couple hundred so far.
That's a couple thousand.
Probably.
Someone who does have a name, though, especially on Wall Street. Ladies and gentlemen, we are very honored to be here today. The man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Dan Ives.
Great to be here.
Dan, thank you for coming.
So I'm so excited to be on your Yet to Be Named podcast. And actually,
maybe that's the name, Yet to Be Named.
And I can't wait to see the merch on the Yet to Be Named podcast.
We may have just came up with a name.
We may have just come up with a name. The Yet to Be Named
Okay,
podcast.
I'll
and we'll credit Dan with that.
As long as I get a trucker hat, I'm cool.
No problem.
Cool.
Dan, thank you for coming on. This is awesome. You and I connected about 2.5 years ago, and you have been covering Wall Street and technology for the past 30 years. Past 4 years, we've had an AI revolution. It's led to a lot of momentum, a lot of more people being interested in the markets. I just want to start off the conversation with this. What has it been like the past 5 years being one of the top rated analysts, media, your picks, Nvidia, Palantir, Tesla? I mean, you are the guy that people listen to when it comes to tech. What has that been like for the past 5 years?
Look, to me, what's been so exciting is just like whether it's in Europe, walk around New York, Singapore, when people just come up and they're like, you know what, because of you, I focused on whatever the name would be, Palantir, Tesla, Nvidia. I feel like, especially where there's so many haters, it's so easy in a narrative like this, where I believe it's a fourth industrial revolution, to basically always be out there and whatever, call it 3.5 million air miles the last 25 years. The stuff I see, putting it out there for our clients and on social media. And that's, look, it's something like, it's been such an exciting time just because I don't want just a small little club being able to benefit from the AI revolution. It's this is democratized, and I think the information flow is something where it's been very exciting to just be a part of.
What's funny is I may be more bullish on AI than Dan.
Well, I think part of the reason that a lot of us are even bullish on this concept of a new technological revolution is because a lot of your analysis. So let's go back 5 years ago. When did you see that we were on the cusp of what we are dealing with today?
So there's actually like specific dates. Like, in other words, 2022. So look, going back to like late 90s, like my 2 worst years I've ever had, 2008, 2022.
Yeah.
So it's like late fall 2022. Everyone's like, oh, Dan Ives, contrary indicator, Tom Lee, or whatever it may be. And then all of a sudden, like I'm doing the work because we're trying to understand like all of the chip developments that we're seeing in terms of AI. Because it was all starting to build from OpenAI on the software side and everything that they were doing. And when we were with a number of developers in San Francisco, the bell went off where I'm like, okay, I could be wrong. Like it could be 6 months from now. I have no control over the Fed, but this is something that's coming. And it was basically making a call toward the end of 2022, like the AI revolution's here.
Right.
And then when Microsoft did the OpenAI deal, that's where we deemed it the AI revolution, because it was our view, like this is, and I remember when I put like the AI revolution's begun, hundreds of emails, just like, what, you are saying a clown show, this, the whole thing. And it was really like, because all the work that we did built up to what Jensen and Nvidia were doing with OpenAI, with Microsoft, triangulating it for investors to understand like the next 10 years, 20 years, this is what we're going to be talking about.
Well, that's what they can't understand. And they can't get it through their heads that technology never stops evolving. And anybody who's 30, 40, 50 years old, if you go back and think about how far we've come from the 80s to the 90s, 90s to the 2000s, 2000s to the 2010s, give me one point in time where technology stopped evolving. And they, for some reason, they just think that AI is a fluke. It's not going to keep evolving. It's one of the most ridiculous concepts that I've heard from the bear case. It's crazy.
But to your point, I think part of it is like for us that have like done, going back to like late 90s, being in San Jose, like going to these conferences, .com bubble and bust, like to go through it. That's why a lot of people are like, oh, is this another bubble? I'm like, look, going back to like the pets.com and this, and the average tech company was trading at over 30 times revenues. Today, the average tech company is trading at 27 times earnings. That bubble was basically funded by companies on Series Z funding, upside down business models, a lot of management teams you wouldn't want, coaching your kid's soccer team. Whereas now, big tech, 600 billion in capex, real use cases, real spend, no debt. And I would almost say to some extent, what was built in the 90s and the bubble from a capacity perspective, we're now just starting to utilize.
And the thing that they don't understand is learn how to read a cash flow statement. The fact that these companies are the ones that are putting out the products that everybody is going to use, and you have several of them that are doing 100 billion plus of cash from operations.
Meta just did 115 billion last night from cash
I
from
know.
ops.
It's amazing.
But go back a quarter ago. Meta, CapEx, can't own it. Stock's going below 600. Now, ticker tape parade, right, for
No.
Meta in terms. But it goes back to like, me and you obviously, like when we started talking, it was really because the Messier of I, Palantir, and just, it was my view, like that was the perfect example of like, that was a teenager elementary school stock.
Right.
Everyone's like, you can't own it, you can't touch it, this and that. And all the work we did in DC, we're like, this is the best technology that we've ever seen in software. If they could commercialize it and go to, to enterprises, it's going to
It would be a
transform
big deal.
tech.
I mean, we're three of the original Palantir bulls.
That is
I
true.
know.
Well, we might as well get into that Palantir discussion. I mean, Steve and I started covering it in end of 21, early 22. You started covering it end of 22, early 23. Basically when the stock was around 10, 15 bucks. I mean, that stock has taken on a life of its own. But it's not even just the stock. It's the fact that they're growing at 63% top line, operating margins of 51%. They weren't doing that when you started covering. I think you were the first real institutional analyst outside of Bank of America to initiate coverage with a price target. Why did you pick Palantir?
Because I knew, like, I felt like this was one like hated institutionally, and it was one from a technology perspective. I'm like, this, like my whole career, whether it was betting on Apple on the iPhone or betting on Musk going back, a decade ago,
Yeah.
or Jensen, you have to, now look, there have been wrong bets too, but like you have to make a bet on who's leading it and the technology.
So it was a carp bet for you more than anything.
It was a technology and a carp bet, as well as understanding like Palantirians, the culture. See that was the thing where I really started to understand the culture of Palantir. That's where I'm like, look, I just feel like I could be wrong in a quarter or two. I could be wrong the next year. Longer term, I'll make this bet. And that was sort of like I also recognized they need an institutional voice.
Yes.
It was like, with obviously like all you guys, like in the retail community, retail is so ahead. And I was excited to do that. And I remember like that first day when we initiated like, Massive AI, same thing, man. The hate mail, boof. Can't repeat a lot of stuff, repeat it on there. Let's just say,
Trust me, I'm in the same boat.
not words you want to be telling your younger kid. And it just comes down to like, I think just so many times like the haters hate, like
But before we keep going with Palantir, how do you psychologically and mentally deal with the hate that you get? Because all of us as public figures get it, but you are at a very elevated level. You have someone that would write an article, someone that puts out a nasty tweet. Like, how are you navigating all that?
Look, I mean, it's one of those things where you could handle it one of two ways. You could handle it like you could go into your cave, like, personal attacks or whatever, and it could actually like make you less confident. Or you use it as fuel. See, I use it as fuel. My whole career has been like, it's always been like that type of sort of tension. Like this guy's the pink suits, the whole thing, eyes, like, and I just view it as like, here's the deal. Like you take like the negative view. I'll do the travel. I'll meet people around the world. And let's see at the end of the day, who's going to be right.
And I'll wear the fancy suits because I like having a good time.
But fundamentally, like that's what I like to do. Like, like I like when younger people reach out, whether they're teenagers, high school, college, and they're like, hey, like because of like watching you, like I want to get involved. My whole goal is to pass things forward to next generation.
Love
I
that.
like I love when like I'm somewhere and someone's like, my mom paid for their house because they own Palantir.
Yeah.
Because whatever they followed
And
our
maybe
stuff.
they caught their attention because of the pink suit,
But
right?
what-
Like,
but
and if that's the thing to critique you on, but the pink suit is what got them to invest in Palantir and pay off the house, then so be it.
But whatever it may be, it's like I just think like for all of us that do this and put yourself out there, I think it just comes with the
Yeah.
territory. And it's something where, but the one thing I'd also say is that like, if your picks were terrible and you were bad over decades, I would have been riffed with the box and the key card, decades ago.
Right.
So the point is sometimes too, is like if you're doing something right, the haters hate, right? Like, they're downstairs, like, in the basement on the keyboard. And it's just one of those things like you got to use it as fuel.
Palantir's valuation. This is something that Steve has talked a lot about. Obviously, $350 billion market cap, trading at 100 times sales. It is getting a premium for a variety of reasons. Do you think that valuation can withstand? And do you think the company needs to do something to really continue growing and expanding the
See,
valuation?
I view it, and I get like that angle. See, I view it as over the next 3 to 5 years, the valuation will be free cash flow.
Hmm.
In other words, like I've covered so many companies over the years. If you go back to early, like Salesforce or Splunk or ServiceNow, a lot of times like revenue, they trade like obscene multiples. But then all of a sudden, what happens? Free cap goes from 1 billion to 3 to 5, 10, 12. So my view is like the enterprise business versus government, commercial versus government. Eventually, like commercial, first of the margins in that are significantly above government.
Yeah.
I view it very similar to my thesis on Apple over the last decade. If you go back to
Which
like
people have been saying has been overvalued for a long time.
but see, 2014, 2015, I'm going back to like sub a trillion, whatever. It's like 700 million. Our whole view is like, you cannot value it just on iPhone. You have to look at the services business, the margin structure, and almost view it as a sum of the parts. Now, I think that's how many have missed Apple in terms of, the value creation that we've seen over the years. If you just focused on numbers, you weren't going to see it. It was about the services and what that's going to do. I would equate that to Palantir
Mm.
being the commercial business and I view commercial, like what's that going to be? What's AIP going to be? Is it multiple billions? Is it 3, 4, 5 billion? If my view is that you're going to have 4 to 5 trillion being spent next 3 to 4 years, what percent Palantir is going to get
Right.
on government and federal? I just think like if you focused on valuation over a year or two, you've missed every transformational growth stock the last 20 years. That's factual.
That's very true.
So now look, some will say you're bullish at all. Like, there's no evaluate. No, it's like, but on the transformational growth names, you have to be able to look out over the coming year
You have to.
because you can't. That'd be like me, that'd be like an NFL GM drafting someone. And if the first year they come out, it was bad. No, it's like Drake May. But it's a good example. Like you have to view like what is it over the next 5, 10, 15 years. And many people that I talk to, they're the same that doubted Tom Brady coming out of Michigan 6th round 2000 draft, right?
It's funny. One of the things that comes up a lot with me is that I pay too much attention to the underlying business metrics. I'm like, well, obviously you don't know what Palantir is doing because in last quarter they did over 200 deals of 1 million plus. That was the first time they broke the 200 number. And they also don't include those deals for the trailing 12 and the net dollar retention. They have 134% net dollar retention. And the amount of deals they've done in the trailing 12, in my model, I can see them getting to about 12.6 billion free cash flow 2030 based on how the deals are coming in and the net dollar retention. And I don't even think most people understand what net dollar retention
is. And I think
is.
that could probably be closer to 15.
Really?
That's see that to me, what he just said is is the key.
Which means it trades at 20 times free cash
No,
flow
so
right
you
now,
can't
which
because
is not crazy.
you cannot look at it on a revenue basis given what's happening on the numbers. And I think that's the one thing that I'd say is like, a lot of times, like, you always say, like, let's say when a company reports earnings, like down 4%,
Yep.
whatever, like on the print. I just think like if you get too caught up with reactions
Yep.
and sentiment, I actually think like that's the one thing. Like if I'd say like over my career, maybe like one of like the things that's like helped me, it's like I get sentiment and I'm dialed into what it is, but I don't let it
Don't let it cloud
overtake
your
me.
judgment. Let's talk about Tesla. You've been on this name for the past decade. Do you think this is the best AI story in the market over the next decade?
Yes. I don't even think it's a question. I mean, we've said like the two, from a physical AI perspective, two best physical AI players in the market are Tesla and Nvidia. It's not even like I don't think there's a question. My whole view of Tesla is that you you have to believe, which we do, it's about autonomous robotics. It's about them owning more of XAI. Eventually, what I believe they'll own pieces of SpaceX. Musk is essentially building the biggest AI company in the world, but it's brick by brick.
Hmm.
So as it's happening, you'll focus on like, well, deliveries in Europe or so. Hey, 3 years ago, that was every quarter, right? It's like, what delivery? What are we tracking? What are the shipments? How many ships left the port in Norway? All that stuff. Okay. The drones over the parking lots. It's not the story anymore. Like the story is you have 10 million vehicles on the road. It's about data. It's about driving autonomous. It's about if you have an 8-year-old today, they're not going to need your driver's license when they're 16. See, that goes back to like technology, right? If I told you, I just want to give like because it's very important. 2007, Jobs launches iPhone. Our whole view is like it's going to change the world. Year later, financial crisis. People like, dude, how'd that work? Just only with AT&T iPhone launch. Why would anyone ever leave their Blackberries? Financial crisis, no one's going to pay. Like if you just went with that thesis, look what it's the same thing with Tesla. If you get caught up in like, oh, robotaxi, there was a delay here, and oh, cybercab productions moved out, you missed the bigger story.
I'm a big believer Optimus is the future of Tesla. I am less on, I've been very public about this. I'm less on the robotaxi, so much more on Optimus that the applications for Optimus are so vast, including healthcare, which most people don't think of, old age homes, skilled nursing facilities. There are so many applications for it. And I am so excited because I am buying 2 Optimuses once I'm able to, one for myself, one for my parents. It is just, I don't believe people are using their imagination enough about how much time you're going to be able to free up by having an Optimus. And at the price point they're talking about, it's very economical.
Very. And I think it speaks to like, look, you could have two different views, like be like, oh, AI taking jobs, like it's gonna be like the worst thing. But I could go back to like when I'm covering tech and be like, okay, Silicon Valley, it's gonna kill jobs. Yeah, it's become the biggest asset in the United States to
Yeah.
where we are today. I could say like I've spent so much of my life traveling around this country to cities they used to have 75,000 people. Now they have 15,000 because the factory moved out.
Right.
And now they have drug issues or education issues. But I can make a case that like it's a huge renaissance of innovation that's happening in the United States because for the first time in 30 years, US is leading China when it comes to tech. For so much of my career, I'd be in like Taiwan, 18 hours in a fab watching without a lunch break. Or you're like, oh. Then like land in New York airport, there's a fist fight at Dunkin' Donuts and be like, whoa, there's a reason we're 17th in math. I'm just saying like we're at a point like when I was in Davos, like you're walking around.
Oh yeah, you were there. How was that
No,
like?
but I'm saying when you're walking around like as a US tech investor, chest is out a bit. There's one European tech company there, SAP, right? I mean,
Wow.
the point is like that was like at Davos was like a moment. I mean, we were at CES together, and then
Yeah.
if you come out of CES and Davos thinking that this is a bubble, you had a lot of Cabernet and martinis, in my opinion. I'm not saying you're not going to have spots that could get ahead of themselves, but I think it's clear. in terms of where this is going.
Why do you think there is so much AI doomerism?
Because look, like there's a view because of the dot-com bubble and because of valuations that like, okay, it's going to happen again. Whether it's a too big to fail with OpenAI, whether it's circular financing, whether it's 3 dudes in their basement trading CDS spreads in Oracle, and then that's what you're making on the C, because of the huge liquidity in that. I just think it's one. It goes to your point, like technology investors, like they can't see in the spreadsheet AI when they're wearing the Peter Millar on the 25th floor of their New York City office building. And the thing is, when you go around the world and you see it, when demand and supply is 12-1 for NVIDIA chips, when you look what's happening with memory and you think this is a bubble, that's, I don't know. It's like, to me, like that, but that's what makes the market.
And you know what the worst part is? They're not putting the right things into the spreadsheet, because anybody who is actually using the spreadsheets would be able to see that if you take Apple, Amazon, Alphabet, and Microsoft, and you put in their revenue growth and their cash from operations growth and their CapEx spend, that 3 out of those 4 have drastically expanded their cash from operations as the CapEx has expanded. And Apple, still an amazing company, still going to be a much bigger company in the future than it is today, but they have notoriously not allocated the type of CapEx that the other ones have. And look at the cash from operations growth. And it's always amazing to me when people talk doom and gloom on AI, when they're not looking at, well, how much did Microsoft actually expand their cash from operations and their ability to produce free cash flow when eventually the CapEx teeters off and just goes into maintenance mode?
But they
They're
missed
not
on
looking at
cloud by
this.
2%, so we got to take out 400
Don't
billion
get
from
me
the market
started
cap.
about that.
I mean,
Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
but
38% is not good. Get
but
out
see,
of here.
but that like
that was
it.
weird yesterday.
No, that look, I'll tell you right
Crazy.
now, like in whatever 100+ quarters of covering tech stocks, okay, the reactions of the Microsoft print and the Apple Larry David
Yeah.
print
Yeah.
are 2 of the most top 10 shocking reactions relative to quarters that I think I've seen, period.
Why do you think the street sold Microsoft off 10%?
I think it's just like there's this narrative. First of all, do a chart of anyone that's related to OpenAI.
Yeah.
It's like ever since the Gerster interview, right? I know
Yeah.
there's like with Sam. So I think it's one, like it's viewed like too big to fail. There's Oracle, everything else. There's sensitivity. Then it's just like you want to see the acceleration in Azure. You didn't see it. And the CapEx, it's one where like they're not dedicating all that CapEx to Azure. And I think that was, look, I'd say like the conference call is not handled well. And I get that. But I just think like the way they took that stock down, it's, look, a year ago, no one would touch Alphabet.
Yeah.
Because the
Except for
DOJ.
me.
But
This guy was buying it.
no, but
This guy was buying
think about a year ago, like AI killing the business model. It's going to get broken up.
Search is dead. Yeah.
How many fights did I get into over, well, search is not being cannibalized if it keeps growing quarter over quarter and year over year by this
Talk about
much.
fist fights in Dunkin' Donuts.
I mean,
Dude, I know. I think I saw like one time. I know. It was like he's like hazelnut, and they gave him vanilla in the syrup.
it's no
and it was
good.
the-
Don't mess with the hazelnut.
And actually, that is true. Like the one thing is like there's nothing worse when you have your regular coffee, and if you don't try it right there, you walk like a
Yeah.
few blocks, or you're in your car.
Because you're just too far to go back.
There's a point once you taste it, and there's like no sugar, sweet and low, whatever. It kind of impacts
Ruins
the
the day.
day.
It ruins the day.
It does. It does ruin the day a little.
Yeah.
So these overzealous reactions to the downside on these names, you think they're just part of the game? They're not emblematic of the actual story.
Because if I react in my whole career to those gyrations, that's why I think a lot of times like the sell side gets like a bad rap.
Yeah.
Because I think they're viewed as kind of like things are bad. Stock
Take the
goes
price
down.
they will react so heavily when something's good or bad, and the price target will change so quickly that I think that the banks that trade these stocks, they go back and forth. Whereas retail, listens to Dan say, "Hey, I think it's a $500 stock." I'm not changing my mind because of one quarter, and that's what gives you trust from a lot of regular people.
And a lot of like institutional, like there's times like they'll face pressure internally, like we gotta sell this. They'll call. I'll do a call with like our clients, like a whole team, and be like, "This is why you don't sell Microsoft here.
Yeah.
This is why you don't sell. This is why you buy more, whatever it is, like Nvidia or whatever it may be." And I think it's like, look, it speaks to everything we've done with the Ives AI 30. It's like trying to identify
Which
who
is
the
what, 2 billion AUM,
yeah,
1.5?
so we're over 1 billion in about 7 months, and
That's incredible.
and to
That's
me,
great.
but it's really about what are the derivative beneficiaries of AI? Because it goes back to like you can't just own like 2023, 2024. It's like buy Nvidia, buy Microsoft, buy Palantir. Let's let's get lunch. Now it's like spread
Yeah.
infrastructure, energy.
Let's talk about Nvidia, which is, as you've said, Jensen, the godfather of AI. $4.5 trillion company. I think stocks trading at 25 times forward earnings. Do you think this one has the potential to once again double and become a $10 trillion company?
Look, my view is like first of all, 24 is way the street numbers I think way conservative. So I think that overstates like, what numbers are. Look, my view is like will AMD will, you know, will like in Huawei on China, will other players, big tech companies do their own chips? Will they cede some market share over time? Yeah.
Probably. Yeah.
But right now, they're 4 years ahead of anyone else.
Yeah.
That's why their third-rate chip H200 in China they'd line up for, in terms of Alibaba, everyone else. So, but they're not stopping autonomous, robotics, physical AI. So it's my view, like when you look at NVIDIA, to say that the story is done, I look, I just because I like to understand the bearish view and be like whether it was like Google on inference, like everyone's trying to kind of find some area circular financing. We're building out a new economy. You're in Vegas in the 1950s. It's sand. There's nothing there. You're Dubai 30 years ago. That's where we are. Like we're talking about like we are just happen to be living in a fourth industrial revolution. And I think investors, it's very easy, like you said, like to become very short-sighted way. You could trade out positions or whatever, but that just continues to be my view. And it's very easy to just tell investors like, "Ooh, I won't own it." Then all of a sudden, like it's going up. You're like, "Oh, I love it." Like the reaction, I always say, like, my Shih Tzu and Terrier could do this job when stocks are going up and to the right.
Right.
Where people need us, institutionally, retail, whatever it may be, it's when you have the white knuckle moments.
Yeah.
That's where our value has always been.
I think that's a fair point. And I think the other really interesting thing about NVIDIA right here is that if they didn't have the type of explosive growth that they're showing, these derivative companies wouldn't be benefit. Like Micron doesn't have
Of
HBM
course.
demand if it's not.
SanDisk,
Yeah.
memory supercycle.
Yeah.
But that's why it's like I just think like you cannot get caught up in something like in earnings season, like some of the initial reactions. Like, what story is that building? Is it for Nvidia, for the memory supercycle, for some of the neo clouds, the CoreWeaves, the Nebius, the others? For the energy plays. I mean, to me, that is like the bigger trade. Because I could argue that over the coming years, whether it's like healthcare, financials, and you obviously do a lot with like Robinhood and others,
Yeah.
but just like the derivative beneficiaries, it actually spreads beyond tech.
Yeah.
But it's all related to AI revolution. You're talking about the biggest growth trend that we've seen, in 50 years.
It's funny because they'll just get something stuck in their head and stay with it instead of doing the research. Look what Taiwan Semiconductor came out and said. Look how much they're expanding their CapEx by. They wouldn't be doing that if there wasn't a large runway.
But look, if you went over the history of time, there's people like you're in a horse and buggy. I'm like, there's a thing called a car. You're like, this guy's insane. Typewriters, computers, insane. Like, I'm just saying, you could go to any sort of like view, like you're gonna go to the moon at one point, 1950s. That's unbelievable. 969. I'm just saying, like, you have to. I think there's two types of people, right? Like, you either have an optimistic and you believe and you do the work. And then there's other people, they look at things like glass half empty. But look, that at the end of the day, like that's what makes a mark, and that's the
Yeah.
best part about it.
So cybersecurity is huge. We've seen a ton of cybercrime on the rise. It's probably only going to get more advanced with the utilization of AI. Companies like CrowdStrike, Palo Alto, Fortinet, some would even put Cisco in there. I mean, these companies are growing for a reason. And to me, it's one of the underrated areas to look at that not enough people are paying attention to.
You're preaching to the choir. I mean, first of all, like it's a second, third derivative beneficiary of AI.
Yeah.
How are you going to protect work? How are you going to know? So let's just fast forward. Palantir does someone implements Palantir. They build out the AI use cases. How do you know with partners who's accessing what?
Hmm.
Internally, who's accessing what? That's why CrowdStrike, Palo Alto, Zscaler, I think are like three ones that stick out. I think what CrowdStrike's doing, we've talked about it. I mean, I think that is like the Rodney Dangerfield of software. Just not getting the respect of everything that they've built out, as well as also like what George has done. And I think you could lump all software together. And right now, software is a, Everest like uphill climb. Don't throw cybersecurity in there. And I think that will be a subsector in those names that stick out.
The phishing attempts exponentially go higher in a world of AI as well.
And think about the exposure.
Yeah.
It's multiplied relative to everything that you're doing in the cloud, all the hyperscale build outs.
Yeah.
So you need to have these cybersecurity companies that come in. That's why I also think there's going to be M&A in cybersecurity. We've talked about.
And
Yeah.
look, business is much different today than it was 10 years ago. The amount of companies that have so much information, especially in healthcare, they are target rich environments for tax. And people are not paying attention enough to what the cybersecurity companies are doing. And there's only so many of them. There's a reason why there's such a limited amount at the top of the heap. And they're just going to get bigger because companies have to protect their infrastructure and they are going to continuously spend more on cybersecurity because what's the alternative? They get hacked, they have major lawsuits. Trust me, you don't want to deal with cyber insurance. You would rather
That-
be protected.
100%. Yeah. And I think that's something too, like the key theme this year is trying to figure out like, what are the tea leaves telling you on spending? Who else is going to benefit that maybe, investors haven't focused on yet?
Right. If you had to come up with a steel man to create a bear case around this entire AI revolution, do you think
Mm.
there is one?
Look, I think if you had to create a bear case, the bear case would be so let's go through like the like key bear cases and okay. The use cases don't work. That I did and that's already been proven from an enterprise perspective and ROI, but you have to continue to prove out the ROI. That's key to what we see.
Right.
Two, big tech, because of pressure and pressure was Meta last quarter, was Microsoft this quarter, CapEx, they have to slow. It's like investors are basically going to like stop the spigot, right? Like,
Yep.
and to that point, like you're in arms race. These companies cannot stop spending. You have more data centers on the construction than active data centers. US, China, trade and tariffs, that to me, so I think the biggest ones that like add to the bear case that have credibility is like that. If you had like a significant sort of like tension, you had upticks, in terms of the tensions, tariffs return would hurt supply chain. China's so key. We need them, they need us. So that's one. I think the biggest bear case around the AI revolution is energy. Like, because
Mm.
to me, everything else, I feel really like check, check, check. The biggest thing that could, like, what's the blinds? Seeing around the corners, like, what is it, right? It's energy. Because the reality is, like, China's way ahead of us in energy, way ahead of us in nuclear. US, like, this is something where, like, you get to 20% of companies that actually go down the AI path from 3-4% today. I mean, you don't have enough energy. I mean, eventually it's like, dude, our power went out while watching Netflix. Yeah, there's a data center upgrade at the Microsoft that, like, you want to talk. So I'm just trying to explain, like, energy. I wouldn't say it's like a national security issue, but
It
I
is.
will. I will.
It is a national
But
security
I
issue.
would say it, and I think to me, like that is the biggest bear case. It's not about funding, Fed, 10-year
It's us
valuations.
not having
This
the energy to support all this
you don't
stuff.
have the energy support, and I think that's why right now, like if you said to me, like that's something that's
And that's a constraint that can get alleviated, though.
Yes,
Like we need
but we need to
more of
invest.
everything. That's the reality. We need more of everything. And we could have more of everything. And that's why I think pipelines are an interesting adjacent
well, but
investment.
no, but it goes, but then it goes back. Like my whole goal is like, how do you make money in this market? Like, there's so many people, like, when things happen, they're like, oh, my view is like, how do you make money? It's like, a lot of times, like, when I'll speak somewhere, they're like, what happens if US invades
We got
like
much bigger problems in the US stock market at
they'll
that
be like
point.
this, like, what happens if China invades Taiwan? I'm like, look, man, I'm like, if you want to like live a life thinking like that, you'll never invest. You'll always be worried. But my view is like calculated risks and making sure you don't miss the opportunities. And I think that's just so important, especially in this market. But obviously, you guys do such a great job. You know, so many of the community does such a great job. I learned so much from like retail
Yeah.
in terms of like, you really get a good sense.
How do you pick when it's time to initiate coverage on a stock? Do you spend a lot of time? Do
It's
you
just
really
the
think
time,
about
yeah.
it?
It's
A-
a time. It's a time. It's like the time that we spend. If do I feel that there's a value add
You know,
like that we like do I think there's something like not in the story that's being understood. Like Palantir is a good example.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
so I don't like to be like the 50th analyst covering a name just to, so it's like there's certain names where it's like if I feel like they're kind of in the crevices or the cracks or they're not, maybe like they're traditionally covered by a hardware analyst, but we'll take a software angle or there's disruptive tech. So to me, it's trying to find the names where I feel like I could add value, but I don't like just to like cover a stock just to cover it and be like, yeah, I want to. A lot of times it's trying to like feel like you can add value.
right. The Trump administration is very supportive of AI,
Yep.
very supportive of crypto. You're in the crypto world as well. How do you think the political aspect of this market being sustained by a president who literally said yesterday the S&P hit 7,000? Is that important for the stock market?
Of course, it's a deregulatory environment. It's innovation. I mean, I could tell like when I'm in Europe, the biggest frustration in so many entrepreneurs there is like it's red tape. They
Mm,
feel like they're building blockbuster videos in Europe. And the problem is that blockbuster videos are great. I think there's like one left in like Alaska somewhere. But the point is that
Have you ever been to a Blockbuster
I
video?
have. No,
Wow.
2007, I remember.
Okay.
yeah, but I think there is actually still one like Alaska or something like that. But those cards were pretty
The
epic.
blue ones.
Oh, the blue
Yeah.
ones, yeah. So I think it's very important. You need an administration that understands AI, that's pro innovation. I think power is going to be very important. I think the regular, like I could argue, like autonomous, you need a federal roadmap. That's going to be extremely important. Like,
Yeah.
so this is something that where I think it is extremely important to have the right sort of administration. Look, there's going to be ebbs and flows, but that's why I think it's part of this AI revolution building out. But when it comes to tariffs, going back to Liberation Day, the scare, I do think in the administration there's been a recognition, whether it's like the Jensen whispers or whatever, where it's like, hey, we we need China. Because guess what? Like stopping Nvidia from selling into China, I get national security and you could restrict it, whatever. All that's doing is who's it giving power to? Huawei,
Yeah.
China tech.
Yeah.
So I do think you definitely have seen the shift because it's important.
I think the other interesting thing about like this entire ecosystem is how much people obsess and care about the macro. Do you spend time at all worrying about the Fed chair
Look,
nomination?
I think you have to understand it enough to into the thesis, but not get carried away with it. I'd probably say like one of our like biggest career mistakes was probably like in 2022, just brushing aside the macro, the
Not understanding the
Fed,
rate hikes as much,
like understanding it, but I think not recognizing that basically like we could yell from the mountaintops no matter what they were gonna these stocks weren't gonna go up.
Yeah.
So I think from my perspective, like learning from my mistakes, just like I think that actually I'd say like our biggest successes are learning from our mistakes. That's something I probably pay a lot more attention to than maybe I used to because of 2022 and and obviously just one of the worst years for tech.
Are you surprised about what's happening with SaaS right now?
It's like in Davos, obviously, like so many software companies, Salesforce and among others, and obviously we're seeing just like this just massive, massive sell off. It's almost like a do not enter zone. I think part of it is like, look, software had a gravy train for decades and decades. And finally, when you have a company like Palantir with no direct salespeople come,
Switches things up. Yeah.
it switches things up. And I think they're adjusting to the business models. But look, I believe we're going to sit here in 6 months, 9 months, year or two. There's going to be some of these software companies you'll be like, I could have bought that service now. What? Salesforce it. What? I'm just saying, like, it's not, there's a view, are you catching a falling knife or whatever, but they will play in the monetization of AI. But it's clearly right now, it's like it's a danger zone to navigate it.
These are the types of situations I love because when I look at the numbers, there are two or three that are just
Who are the
no
two or three
brainers to
that
me. So you just said one of them, ServiceNow. I am not.
I mean, McDermott's the goat.
I'm not a shareholder yet. I'm probably starting a position this afternoon, and I'm going to scale into it. It is now one of my favorite stories on the street. I've been allocating capital to Salesforce. What they're doing,
Install base.
and one of the things that I get frustrated with is when I have conversations and the amount of people that say to me, when Gen Z and Gen Alpha get into the workplace, SaaS is them. Like, you clearly have never worked at a very large company. You don't understand what it takes to make a decision to actually, one, make a change, two, run the RFP to make the change, and three, actually implement large scale software.
Mhm.
And who actually is making those decisions? Because I can promise you, the people that are coming into the company, even if you have 20 or 25% of the company in that age range, they're not the decision makers. And these companies are not standing on the sideline. They're embedding AI into their products to make their software even better. And you need large scale ERP systems. You can't run a large business without an SAP, a Workday, an Oracle PeopleSoft, one of those companies. You need that back end software for HR and for finance, for learning and talent. And there's a couple of names. Salesforce and ServiceNow are my two big ones right now. Adobe by the numbers is to me just incredible, but I need to do a little bit more research on Adobe.
No, I agree. Yeah, and those are ones like, they definitely have like work cut out for them. We're more bullish
Yep.
in Salesforce in terms of like just bending off in the install base. But obviously McDermott and what he's done is amazing.
I mean, what he just said the other night about a note to shareholders, we're doing a 5 billion buyback, 2 billion of capital immediately once the window opens because they just reported. And now he's taking his salary in stock. I mean,
Seeing
how do you get more bullish than
McDermott
that?
his whole career, that's the other thing too, is like you bet on the seat.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
Carp, you bet on
Elon,
McDermott.
Jensen.
Elon, Jensen, Sun, Cook, like Lisa Su, AMD. I mean, the point is like I do think that is something that is like underestimated, no matter how big the company.
Yeah. Dan, we appreciate you being the
Great.
second guest on the Yet to Be Named
Yet
podcast.
to be
Yet to be named. Are we thinking that this is something?
We will figure out a name.
But I just want to make sure that
You will get the merch.
No, I
You
want to
will.
get merch on the Yet to Be Named podcast.
You will. We have a couple quick rapid fire for you, and we'll let you get out of here. Best pizza in the city.
Best pizza in the city, I'd have to say
John's Leakers.
Yeah.
That's what I've been telling you.
I haven't been there yet.
Now,
I'd say,
you're a
I'd say
Long Island guy.
I'm a Jersey guy, original Long Island guy.
Long Island pizza.
I'd have to probably say Emilio's in Comac is one of my favorites.
Okay, next one. Again,
And then also probably Lascala and Dix Hills. That's a phenomenon. I mean, that's a slice that can make someone tear up.
Mm.
Next one. Why is Rutgers so much better than Penn State? It's
I-
rapid fire. We gotta
Are
quick-
you
we
now going
gotta-
to ask him about the head coach?
But I will tell you this, in terms of like it actually like I get frustrated at Rutgers people that are negative on Rutgers because obviously being a Jersey guy, being a Big Ten guy, and of
Rutgers.
course being a huge Penn State guy, it's something where Rutgers, I think you get them a bigger stadium, you know, they could really be, you know, play. And I think look, Shiano, we're big fans of, you know him from Penn State. So you know, but of course we are, you know, and I feel bad every time we go into Rutgers and just, you know, we obviously just continue to, you know, just have our third string. And but again, that's going to change.
Final one. Favorite movie.
I mean, favorite movie is Godfather.
Okay.
I would
That's a
actually,
good one.
I'd actually
It's a
tell you
classic.
this.
Is it?
It's a classic.
I tell you this: if I meet someone and they've never seen The Godfather, I have to delete and block them from the iPhone.
Why are
Me
you going
too.
like this?
Because if I meet someone who hasn't watched The Godfather, I have to delete and block them from the iPhone. It's really that simple.
You realize this is being recorded, right?
Dan Ives, thank you for being on the show. I haven't seen Godfather before. I need to get into it. I need to-
Oh, we have. I mean, if you-
I've tried. I have
no.
tried.
My attention span. I gotta sit.
Have you
and
seen
sit.
Taxi Driver?
Yes.
he
I-
doesn't
no,
even
actually,
know.
I-
You don't
no,
even
I've
know who's in Taxi Driver.
seen Robert something.
Yeah.
Okay, De Niro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, that was like 5 years ago. It was on Netflix.
All right, he hasn't even seen Goodfellas.
I haven't seen Goodfellas. I need to.
I know.
One day.
I've tried. I've tried
One
to
day.
bring him
Okay,
to the
listen,
light.
listen. We have to come up with like some sort of list for him. You've never
he's-
seen.
I
he's
gave
come
him a
up with-
list.
But also, your personality would absolutely love Goodfellas.
Casino
Every-
Royale. Although, yeah, I
he
would.
couldn't get through Casino.
Dude, my attention span is it's hit. Like, it's
Listen,
not-
this is gonna be a separate conversation. Yeah.
You just try.
I've tried. It's a tall task.
Dan, we love
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Thank
Dan.
you.
You got.
Appreciate it.